Wuthering Heights by Emily Brontë. In the late winter months of 1801, a man named Lockwood rents a manor house called Thrushcross Grange in the isolated moor country of England. Here, he meets his dour landlord, Heathcliff, a wealthy man who lives in the ancient manor of Wuthering Heights, 4 miles away from the Grange. In this wild, stormy countryside, Lockwood asks his housekeeper, Nellie Dean, to tell him the story of Heathcliff and the strange denizens of Wuthering Heights. Nellie consents, and Lockwood writes down his recollections of her tale in his diary. These written recollections form the main part of Wuthering Heights. Nellie remembers her childhood. As a young girl, she works as a servant at Wuthering Heights for the owner of the manor, Mr. Earnshaw, and his family. One day, Mr. Earnshaw goes to Liverpool and returns home with an orphan boy whom he will raise with his own children. At first, the Earnshaw children, a boy named Hindley and his younger sister Katherine, detest the dark-skinned Heathcliff. But Katherine quickly comes to love him, and the two soon grow inseparable, spending their days playing on the moors. After his wife's death, Mr. Earnshaw grows to prefer Heathcliff to his own son, and when Hindley continues his cruelty to Heathcliff, Mr. Earnshaw sends Hindley away to college, keeping Heathcliff nearby. 3 years later, Mr. Earnshaw dies, and Hindley inherits Wuthering Heights. He returns with a wife, Frances, and immediately seeks revenge on Heathcliff. Once an orphan, later a pampered and favored son, Heathcliff now finds himself treated as a common laborer, forced to work in the fields. Heathcliff continues his close relationship with Katherine, however. One night they wander to Thrushcross Grange, hoping to tease Edgar and Isabella Linton, the cowardly, snobbish children who live there. Katherine is bitten by a dog and is forced to stay at the Grange to recuperate for 5 weeks, during which time Mrs. Linton works to make her a proper young lady. By the time Katherine returns, she has become infatuated with Edgar, and her relationship with Heathcliff grows more complicated. When Frances dies after giving birth to a baby boy named Hayden, Hindley descends into the depths of alcoholism, and behaves even more cruelly and abusively toward Heathcliff. Eventually, Katherine's desire for social advancement prompts her to become engaged to Edgar Linton, despite her overpowering love for Heathcliff. Heathcliff runs away from Wuthering Heights, staying away for 3 years, and returning shortly after Katherine and Edgar's marriage. When Heathcliff returns, he immediately sets about seeking revenge on all who have wronged him. Having come into a vast and mysterious wealth, he deviously lends money to the drunken Hindley, knowing that Hindley will increase his debts and fall into deeper despondency. When Hindley dies, Heathcliff inherits the manor. He also places himself in line to inherit Thrushcross Grange by marrying Isabella Linton, whom he treats very cruelly. Katherine becomes ill, gives birth to a daughter, and dies. Heathcliff begs her spirit to remain on earth. She may take whatever form she will, she may haunt him, drive him mad, just as long as she does not leave him alone. Shortly thereafter, Isabella flees to London and gives birth to Heathcliff's son, named Linton after her family. She keeps the boy with her there. 13 years pass, during which Nellie Dean serves as Katherine's daughter's nursemaid at Thrushcross Grange. Young Katherine is beautiful and headstrong like her mother, but her temperament is modified by her father's gentler influence. Young Katherine grows up at the Grange with no knowledge of Wuthering Heights. One day, however, wandering through the moors, she discovers the manor, meets Hayden, and plays together with him. Soon afterwards, Isabella dies, and Linton comes to live with Heathcliff. Heathcliff treats his sickly, whining son even more cruelly than he treated the boy's mother. 3 years later, Katherine meets Heathcliff on the moors, and makes a visit to Wuthering Heights to meet Linton. She and Linton begin a secret romance conducted entirely through letters. When Nellie destroys Katherine's collection of letters, the girl begins sneaking out at night to spend time with her frail young lover, who asks her to come back and nurse him back to health. However, it quickly becomes apparent that Linton is pursuing Katherine only because Heathcliff is forcing him to. Heathcliff hopes that if Katherine marries Linton, his legal claim upon Thrushcross Grange, and his revenge upon Edgar Linton, will be complete. One day, as Edgar Linton grows ill and nears death, Heathcliff lures Nellie and Katherine back to Wuthering Heights, and holds them prisoner until Katherine marries Linton. Soon after the marriage, Edgar dies, and his death is quickly followed by the death of the sickly Linton. Heathcliff now controls both Wuthering Heights and Thrushcross Grange. He forces Katherine to live at Wuthering Heights and act as a common servant, while he rents Thrushcross Grange to Lockwood. Nellie's story ends as she reaches the present. Lockwood, appalled, ends his tenancy at Thrushcross Grange and returns to London. However, 6 months later, he pays a visit to Nellie, and learns of further developments in the story. Although Katherine originally mocked Hayden's ignorance and illiteracy, in an act of retribution, Heathcliff ended Hayden's education after Hindley died. Katherine grows to love Hayden as they live together at Wuthering Heights. Heathcliff becomes more and more obsessed with the memory of the elder Katherine, to the extent that he begins speaking to her ghost. Everything he sees reminds him of her. Shortly after a night spent walking on the moors, Heathcliff dies. Hayden and young Katherine inherit Wuthering Heights and Thrushcross Grange, and they plan to be married on the next New Year's Day. After hearing the end of the story, Lockwood goes to visit the graves of Katherine and Heathcliff.